go ahead and feel free to pick up some a plate. And see where everyone is at as far as their experience in teaching online. So if you have a cell phone handy, please feel free to respond to this question. Not only is it us here today, we actually have some people online, so you'll see some people actually have already started responding to the question. It's either like text, ZHSKA, and then it's going to ask you for a number, 37607.
No, 2. That's
Okay.
that's where you're gonna text 2.
Oh, that's where it takes me. Sorry. So 37607 and.
But if not, we can just use the poll as
Oh, sorry. I forgot to use the microphone. So if you have some time, go ahead and respond to the poll question. We not only have some people here with us today on site, we actually have a large group also online. So if you can respond to the poll everywhere question while we're waiting. We'll get started in a moment. What we want to do first is wait till the food's ready, then give everyone the opportunity to grab some food and come back to the table. And then we'll get started with the round table.
So if we're doing the text option, can we text our letter? Our
Yes.
answer?
Yeah. A, B, C, or D, or E.
when you use it online, there won't be hybrid as well, because I do flip, so.
Yes.
So it does. Okay.
As long as you're using Blackboard and letting somehow augment your video.
Okay, so everyone, if you are ready, feel free to grab a plate and then come back in to go ahead and take a seat. So if you'd like to get a plate right now, feel free to do so. There's time for babies. They don't eat either. There's time for this first table right here and this one right here. We have salad and we have only veggies and cups. Thank you. So feel free. Do I get one slide first or? Yes? Okay. Can this side go ahead and get some food?
we're getting ours. Please feel free to do so. We'll probably start in 8 minutes. Thank you. If the middle table would like to go ahead and get started getting a plate, and if you guys want to get started. And as we're waiting, there is a second question. To please describe in one word your comfort level in teaching online and hybrid. You would just type. You continue just typing the word, like what you think, because you're still connected to the poll. So you just type the word.
We just type in the CA.
It's already submitted, so now we jump to the next topic. Open it. Yes, we can wait till they're seated. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Well, I'm gonna do a little introduction. That way, give you some time to continue to eat. First off, I want to thank you guys and thank you all for coming here today. So thank you for joining us in our first online learning faculty roundtable. We chose the word roundtable even though these tables are not round. It's okay. It's because it implies that there's no head. There's no one leading the session. This is not a training session. This is an opportunity for us to discuss, opportunity for you as faculty to ask questions, provide tips, give advice with each other, see what everyone else is doing. So it's really important in this session, in order for it to be successful, that to be bold, ask questions, and be bold and share what you're doing, because it's a great opportunity for us to gather together in this time. And we have two groups with us, right? We have the group here on location, and we have a group as well online that they will be posting their chat questions. And I'm going to go ahead and change the slide here a little bit so that you can also see the questions and maybe the feedback that they're going to be giving as well. So shortly I'll be doing that. Now, though we would like to take credit for this, it was not our idea. Actually, one of the faculty members here today is the one that actually had the idea for this roundtable. Dr. Lewis Falk, right here, he had...
First time anybody listens.
So again, this was an opportunity for our online faculty and hybrid faculty, no matter what platform you use, to build a community and also an area for us to discuss, to have a forum, to share ideas. So in order, just to share how this format's going to be, what we'd like you to do is, if you have a question, we have these funny little these are nice little hands. They're cute, actually. So go ahead and raise a hand. Anna will be throwing the catch box to you or passing it along if you don't want it thrown to you. and then you can ask your question. Then we're going to have another mic. Liz is going to have the other mic. So if anyone wants to respond to that question, then just go ahead and raise your hand that you'll respond or share your idea. And that way Liz can bring the mic, because there's an audience online that needs to hear as well, because if we're not talking through the mic, they're not going to hear what we're talking about. So what else? Okay, so also, thank you. We are going to be providing certificates for participation for this event. So we're going to actually email them to you and then send them out to you. So probably by the end of next week, you'll be receiving them. Also, just to let you know, the Deputy Provost really liked this idea, that she wants this done monthly. And so what we're going to, So what we're going to be doing is doing a rotation. So Brownsville, Edinburgh, Brownsville, Edinburgh. That way we can continue this community and share our ideas. You know, the end of semester comes, there's some questions that we may have, and see what others are doing. So this is a great opportunity for us to also have this forum. And just to let you know, the next session is going to be September 29th in the Edinburgh campus. It's going to be in the education building. So we'll be sending out, those that participated today and registered today will send that out, but we'll also be sending it out to the whole community as well. So without further ado, who would like to be the first one to ask a question? Or we can ask a question. So I guess we will ask, oh, there you go, Kim. Okay. Wait, oops, sorry.
So there's, I guess, a policy that the online courses close on that last day of the semester. And I had a student, I wish I had thought to send you the email and we could put it up on the screen, but she wanted to know, how did she do on her last project? How did she do on her final exam? And faculty are so busy trying to grade, trying to get grades in. You don't always have time to immediately respond to all these emails. And I know faculty have the option to leave their course open a few extra days, but I mean, it seems like just pedagogically it makes sense for all students to be able to see those grades and the feedback that you may write on their final paper. And is that a possibility that we could extend that close date just university-wide by a couple of days?
We can ask, we had polled, go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh.
That's a reason. I know that at least a couple of years ago there was a reason for doing that, and it had to do with the software. But Raimundo or Ruben, that's not here, can definitely answer that. Did you want to add to that, Raimundo?
Yes, we're actually working with information technology department on that because our feed files come from our SIS system. So we're still working on that to change those dates because right now it's the official start and end date, what we have in Blackboard. But we're working on that.
This is super easy to change. I routinely do it. The defaults are the sections opens the first day of class if you want it open earlier, which usually I do. And then the default is the day of the finals. So, for example, I'm teaching summer 2. It expires today. On the left-hand side, you'll see, I think it's customization, and then you go to properties, and then it's extremely simple. It's just a couple of mouse clicks. You want to?
Yeah, I was going to say this. I do it routinely every semester, and it's very, very easy. In the
As soon as I get my syllabus up.
right, exactly. In the customization area, control panel.
If you do need some extra time, if you need to extend it, you can always send an email to your instructional designer, and we can do that. The reason is because the files it does the official open and end date. That's the standard default for all of the courses. But we can go in individually and open up the courses and leave them open a little bit longer before you need that.
But we do have an online program and the course open on Tuesday and this accelerated program. And we do have, as here at CDL, I do have a week 0. I'm known by week 0. So I open my class, the course will open on Tuesday. So my course will open tomorrow actually. So it's like my colleague here said, it's up to the faculty to help with that, to do that. Thanks.
Yes, just to show you, it's under your course, customization, properties, and then you scroll down. It won't be this one because this is not an official course. The official course will already have a start and end date. It's a matter of just changing this date a week for right now as a temporary solution until that is fixed. And then we can actually then submit, and then we have that.
Sorry. So, do they see what's on my screen? So I just went to a Blackboard course, and if you go to your Blackboard course, scroll down to the bottom, click on Customization, and then select Properties. And then if you scroll down on that page, it appears under Course Duration, under Select Dates, just change the end date to make it longer so that students have access to your Blackboard course longer. Also the start date, if you want to make this course open a week before semester starts, and then press Submit.
Part of the issue with this has been that they keep pushing back our evaluations from students. And so when I was talking to Alec Kabash, he said they weren't supposed to do that, and that students should not be able to still evaluate you while this material is still up at the end. So hopefully they'll fix that, but that becomes part of the problem. And by the way, the reason I suggested this is because I feel like I'm in a vacuum all the time, and whatever I'm doing, I don't know what anybody else is doing, and I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. So that's why I actually asked if we could talk to other people to figure out how to do things better.
Any other questions?
Okay, is there anything we can do about changing, back on the subject of evaluation, student evaluations, about those questions? Those questions that we use, that they evaluate this course, do not belong to an online environment.
That would be something raised by faculty affairs?
I was involved in some of that. I do know that most of the questions are prescribed by this UT system, and there's very little flexibility. Now, they give you the chance to add to that, but I think this is something that originated at UT system, so it's going to be difficult to change some of those questions. I'm a faculty senator, and I think if you'd like, I can bring this back up through the faculty senate. That may be a good group that could support this.
Yeah, I would like that. So, I mean, as we start looking at these evals and we go in more and more of these courses, traditionally it seems to me that not only is it more work for me, but that the evaluations seem to go a little lower in my classes when I'm teaching online. And I'm not sure if it's because of the fact that my skill level, which I really don't think it is, but I think it more has to do with is less people fill them out, and therefore the ones that are unhappy carry more weight.
Actually, I'm on the faculty senate, and actually we raised this question because the 5 questions do not really convey our performance at evaluation. There are 5 questions, when you read them, about course objective, communication. You know it, you have everything, especially our online program, the objective, you cannot pass quality matters unless you have the objectives right there. I was told when I raised the questions, because my evaluation is going down, because even we don't have control over our class size, we have sometimes 100 and 120, and it's a graduate program. So I raised the question, and the provost was there, and he said, well, we give you the option to add questions. However, those questions we add are not going to be part of the official that you get. Yeah, so it doesn't, so it should be really something we need to change the way that evaluate, because yes, it's a 5 question from UT system, but we can still add, but it should be an official evaluation, not just add, because that we do that feedback in the class, but it's not going to help me for my student evaluation.
Hello, so kind of a similar question. So I recently taught a hybrid course for BMed. They, of course, ITL created it and I provided content, but I did notice that my evaluations went down as well. And there was a lot of negative feedback from the students. And so I'm wondering, I mean, so I participated in some activities with CULT and with, you know, Center for Teaching Excellence and other programs. And so we're trying to kind of steer away from this just boring lectures, right, to have more group activities, make it more interactive for the students. But I find that some students either aren't prepared for that. I mean, it might be me. I mean, maybe I'm just not a good instructor, who knows? But is there any feedback that you're getting from the students? Maybe the students should also be kind of, I don't know, there should be programs offered to them so that they can understand what hybrid is, how we're trying to change our educational strategies. Is that something that's possible?
So, something we're looking at is student success. Is like to prepare them prior to coming to an actual class and getting we're not there yet, but this is something we're looking at to help the students in that area. One of the things that I'm just going to share that from an EDUCAUSE, what students were seeking, there's an actual survey, and maybe this is something that we should disseminate to all of you, that our students took part in for online learning. RAM was part of that, like that project of having those, and one of the things that I remember, like that's prominent, is like around 85% of the students requested that they have lectures, video lectures, micro lectures. Now we want to be careful how long our lectures are, right? Because then we actually lose our students. So we want to consider the type of materials that we provide our students. But that would be something that we can disseminate to you so that you can see what was the report from our students. Do you want to add more to it?
I'd like to just add on the pedagogy part. I was teaching a class for Dr. Zamrani, and it was a hybrid. And I was doing part of the assignments in class and PowerPoints and so on. And that really wasn't working for that crowd or that group of graduate students. So what I did the following semester is I did the flipped classroom. So all we did in the classroom was the discussions, and they had to do all the assignments online. And that, I mean, increased the popularity, I guess, of the mood of the students, and just, so I don't know if you've tried that before.
We also have question online. Let me.
So I think the problem that I have with, I've tried group discussion, so I teach neuroscience, and that's a topic that requires them to understand a lot of biology. It's very difficult to get them. So if I taught like psychology of gender, that would be great. They probably would they wouldn't stop talking, because those concepts are, I mean, everybody has an opinion about them, they probably think about that, but I don't think there's, in terms of hybrid for hardcore science courses, I don't think that that's, I've never participated in a session where they really address that issue of how do you do like group discussions for science courses. I mean, I'm sure some chemists have come up with some good strategies, but I probably need help with that. And so it's been difficult. I've tried to do group discussions, but some students don't come prepared. If they don't know how a cell operates, then they can't participate in the discussion. I've even put handouts online to help them. So anyway, that's some of the issues that I've been having with group discussions.
And what do you feel about formative assessments before coming to class in order, like it's a gateway to enter the classroom? Go ahead. Do you want?
Well, if I can just interject real quick.
Okay, let me use my teacher voice. Well, of course they can, yeah. Yeah, I was basically going to say the same thing. I prepare my students ahead of time. I teach English, and sometimes these literary concepts, you know, they can't, and especially when I'm teaching older literature. But what I do is do exactly that, these sort of gateway things, sometimes to make sure that they, and it's part of the grade, so it's like a quote-unquote reading quiz, except that it's open book, and it's the idea of forcing them to have to go in there and actually find the answers, and they can take the quiz as many times as they need to. And then actually, when they're in class, I do a lot of small group work in class, because that's, when I do hybrid, it's pretty much discussion based. And so I have very sort of, I would say, you know, formal arrangements in this where somebody has to be, each person in the group has a role that they have to play. There's a reporter, there's a recorder, and then there's somebody who is the quote-unquote archivist. They're the ones that have to actually make sure that the material's there, and then the questions that I ask them that I prepare are follow-ups are based on what they should have read, and then they have to actually work together to figure out the answers to those things. And so something like that might work.
If I could. So one of the things that I do each semester is I kind of do a base model of my class. And what I do is after a month, I go ahead and survey the students. What are you liking? What are you not liking? Do you prefer longer lectures, shorter lectures? Do you want more hands-on group activities? And these are all things that I've already allotted for in my syllabus. And what that's allowed for me to do is to tailor each course, and especially when I'm teaching multiple sections, that's actually allowed me to have like one class that is really group focused. They really enjoy the group work, and others have only 1 or 2 assignments that are group work and the rest are individual assignments. And it's actually turned out where, because of the tailoring, because I'm actually asking them, they in the evaluations even tell me, like, I really appreciate you taking the time and getting to know us and for our specific cohort in your class, and to make the accommodations that have made this class, you know, enjoyable even more so than it was previously. And so if that helps out, and you can ask all the questions that you would like in a quick survey. It doesn't have to be an assignment. It can just be extra points. Like you'll get 2 extra points for filling out the survey, and you have your personal knowledge about what you can do to benefit your students at that exact moment in time. If that helps out.
So there's a question online. Have others experienced a difference in their evaluation between face-to-face and online? Oh, sorry. So the question is from Mary King. As a follow-up to the topic that was discussed, is how have others also experienced a difference in evaluations between face-to-face and online?
Yeah, my evaluation, and actually I was very upset. My annual evaluation last year, because people who do the evaluation need to be aware, especially for those who are teaching online. We all agree our evaluation went down. Our face-to-face, no. But the person who was doing my folder trashed my performance. And I did mention that to the provost. So there is a difference. How can you fix that? That's actually my question to CDL, to all of you, because one of the, when you read their feedback, the questions, the comments, you know, it says no communication, the professor was not available. When you know, if you check my cell phone, you check my email, you are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you are responsive. And I have my colleague here to add to that. He is also in the online. I'm sorry to pick on you, George, but we are in the same situation. I had one class with 120. Right now I will start teaching. Actually, my course will open tomorrow. I have so far 74 students. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I'd like to share with regard to communication. A lot of the time it's because for large classes we use coaches, and some of the coaches that we use do not respond to student questions. My experience in summer, 2 coaches for 2 classes, and one of them literally answered no question. Oftentimes the times when students write to you and say, I missed this assignment, maybe because I took my child to the hospital or I was sick, and then you say, I'm going to give you an opportunity to resubmit your assignment. And then when that assignment comes, the module is already closed. You say submit via email and copy the coach, and the coach doesn't grade it. It's like, did you grade my assignment? So unless you do it yourself, the coach isn't going to do it. And that ends up being what is counted as not communicating effectively. So a lot of the time I think it's because it's not entirely upon the faculty, but it's because you're also using other people to help you fulfill the course requirements.
I wanted to make a comment in terms of the difference between live and online classes, but I'm kind of doing this from an administrator perspective. When we look at the standard 5-question evaluations, we know that if you have a small class and you get 2 or 3 bad ratings, it blows your record. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize is the tabular summaries are built on that, but the student comments, which can sometimes save us as faculty, those don't show up in our dossiers unless we put them in. If we added questions to our standard 5 questions, if we add another 5 or 10, which I think it would be great for this group to come up with some specific evaluation items related to distance ed. I know some people do and some people don't, but share those with everyone teaching online so we can add those. But then we have to train the faculty as we do this. Okay, mention these in our narratives and add the artifacts so that we can point these reviewers so they don't trash us based on these evals, and so we can really show what's happening in our online courses. Kind of, I get low ratings on communication, and I'm like, really? I set up an asynchronous course, and I respond to every email within 24 hours tops. And the students still complain about it, but it's 1 or 2. But then I look at my comments, are stronger. But I think if we could look at some base questions, and I know a lot of research has been done on this, looking at quality indicators in online education, and there's some really good samples out there that we can pull from for that. But we've got to train faculty, we've got to showcase what we do online in our dossiers. I mean, a lot of people get hung up on those 5 questions and that magic 80%, but we know that female faculty traditionally get lower rates. Our online courses sometimes get rated less because students don't pay attention to the questions. So we've got to build that up a little bit. I think we could come up with something that would really work for ourselves as online instructors. And I think it would be something interesting, maybe an internal study. Let's look at online versus live versus hybrid and just see what the differences are for our own institution. Somebody could pull that and probably in about a day have a report of what's happening with us.
It seems to me the analogy of being a teacher or professor online versus working in a restaurant as a wait staff. anything goes wrong when you get your order, you blame it on the waiter or waitress, and you don't give them a tip. So what happens here is the same thing. Anything goes wrong, whether it's your coaches or they have technology issues or they don't turn something in or their Wi-Fi is down and you're not willing to make an exception for them, we get blasted for it, for lack of a better term. So, but I'd like to transition into the question that I have is, with something I don't really do, maybe I should, I've been thinking about it, do-overs. I feel like when I go through and I grade all these assignments, 50 of them at one time when they're writing assignments, I give them a chance. I'm lenient the first time, and the second time I give it again, or a different one, but basically grade it. And then someone to do it over. And I don't allow that. What does everybody else do? Do they let them redo these assignments? And then the other caveat, after you've already graded them, or I think it's different if they email you and say, look, I sent you the wrong one, or something happened here, so they can fix that. I'm okay with that, as long as it's by the deadline of the assignment. But after that, past the deadline to say, oh, I did this wrong, or I never checked it, or any of those. In my course, it's too late. What does everybody else do?
I do both ways, and it depends on the class and it depends on what the assignment is. For the most part, no, I don't take late work. No, there's not do-overs. One thing that I put in the first week is I make them turn in a backup plan. What are you going to do if your computer goes out? What are you going to do if your internet is out? Where's the closest place you can go and get internet? They have to turn it in the first week, and then week 3, they can't tell me they don't have access. I do the course policy quiz the first week. So the same thing. Can you turn in a late assignment? What do you do if you miss an assignment? So same thing. They can take that one over and over until they get 100. Then they can't tell me they didn't know that was the right answer. Then I teach quality improvement, and in the spirit of quality improvement, yes, I let them resubmit assignments if they're below a certain standard. And the main reason, the spirit of quality improvement, but also because in that course there's a project, and each week they do a part of the project and it all builds. And if they can't just leave this part out. So for that, I do let them redo it, but they get a lower grade if they have to resubmit the second time. But if it's, my internet was down, no.
Hi. I've never done redos on assignments. I usually assign at least 1, usually 2 essays in my psychology classes. But what I do for those essays is I do a pre-check. I let them just turn in a rough draft of whatever they're doing, and then I won't tell them what their grade would be, but I will point out parts of that assignment that are weak and give them a chance to sort of preemptively make that assignment better. And I find that that's really worked for complaints, because then when someone comes to me and says, oh, I didn't do very good on this, I can look back at my log and say, did you bring me a rough draft? If not, you're not helping yourself. And if you did bring me a rough draft, let's look and see, out of the things I told you to correct, did you correct those? And a lot of times they kind of very sheepishly accept the grade, and there's not a lot more complaining like that. So I like to sort of preempt that.
Dr. Corbet, do you remember what Dr. Sullivan used to do? He had a mulligan when I was doing my master's in ed tech. You had a mulligan assignment. So one time you got a freebie. Whenever you screwed up, sometime during the semester, you could submit to your mulligan assignment. So you got 1 free screw up during the semester, and then if they are on their 2nd and 3rd screw up, well, you already used your mulligan.
One thing that I'll do when I have my engineering students write reports is, first of all, break it into sections, of course, because if you throw the report at them, they just panic. So you break it in manageable sections. I will give them rough drafts, and I give them feedback. But I also have them submit to a discussion board, and part of the assignment is they have to peer critique another student's writing. And I find that's very powerful, because they're like, well, why am I not getting a good grade? Well, they can see what everybody's submitting, and they can start to realize what it takes. And what I grade is the quality of their review of another student's person. And you have to give, when you're doing something like this, you have to be careful. And it's like, you have to give definite, positive, constructive comments. But I find that's a very powerful tool. It's very helpful. But I will also say this isn't teaching classes of 20 to 30. I don't think it would work. And in some of the classes I've heard with 100 or 75, I couldn't manage that.
Actually, our experience, especially in the online, that's really our big challenge here. And because we have the coaches, and we find out that coaches sometimes they are over or grade inflation. So I get to another challenge, put another challenge on myself. I do the moderation. That's one way to do it. But the way I do my assignment is broken down to different segments. And if they are good integrating the comment, the feedback given to them for each section, let's say the proposal, then the introduction, problem statement, and so on. I teach research and statistics. And each core I teach also have a research project which follow the same guidelines. So if I don't see any improvement in the final documents before week 7, in week 6 they submit the final. They got the feedback, they have 1 week, we grade like at midnight, 2 o'clock, you can see us, we are still grading. So if that weekend, last weekend, they do not improve, then they will get the lower grade. But that's how we do it, just to show improvement. But I would like to switch to something there because I saw here something about giving feedback audio. I never used that. If anybody did ever use the video audio feedback? I always use the assignment like this, on the margin, but I never use audio video feedback. So how does it work?
Okay, do you want to share about the mobile app? I know other instructors, there was a research project that showed that basically being able to hear the inflections and the way the professor has given feedback to the students has made a big difference, because it's sometimes not easy to see like what's the tone of the professor when they're writing feedback, right? But providing audio feedback, students can actually hear that tone.
First, I wanna post. There's another question from a faculty online, and she's saying, what are the programs that you guys are using? For example, for one of her class, she's using Blackboard, but for another class, she's using Blackboard and MindTab. So I think she wants to know if you're using other publishers or other tools from that integrate with Blackboard in your courses.
So I've started, and actually this is something Deanna probably uses, I assume, is I'm going to start using SoftChalk. During hybrid I learned about it, to have students prepare for group discussions or I hope it works. I don't know if it is, but I've already started to use it. I think during hybrid we went over it a little bit during the hybrid academy that I participated in, and it was very helpful, and so I would recommend the faculty member to use SoftChalk. I'm planning to use it in the fall, and hopefully it'll work out for me. So SoftChalk is one.
Yes, I also use Collaborate in group discussions. One of the challenges that I've faced before is when I group students myself, because that's how I see the list in Blackboard, and ask them to stay in those groups and begin discussing very specific topics of research. They will always come back and say, we can't meet my groups. Some people are not responding to the questions. Some become difficult, even saying that this is supposed to be an online class. We should not be restricted to meetings. And the last 2 research projects that I had online were very successful. I didn't get any criticism for insisting on those discussions, because everybody sent their topics to me, and I grouped students according to their topics of interest. So I think somehow they were interested in their own interests at that particular time. So, and then they would, working with online center, we put them into those groups where they can meet at their own convenient times and discuss in groups, and then finally we even present entirely online using Collaborate, where everybody comes and they participate and listen to each other, see if we were in class but we're not seeing each other. Thank you.
If we're talking about packages, of course I use SoftChalk. I use Camtasia for recording. That's a pretty powerful package. One thing in the hybrid classes I use a lot is OneNote. I've got a Surface Pro and I love OneNote. I make my own handouts, I can import them, and then I can mark them out, mark them up, and I can even export my marked work and post that. I also use Respondus to do quizzes and online. I've been fortunate, IT's worked with me and they've created a virtual server, so I have a place to upload all of my materials. So they created it for me and they basically maintain it, and I have enough privileges to create directories and move material and post stuff online so students can go to that site. I think that's about it. Thank you.
I'd like to share some experience from the last couple of years. We started as a UTRGV and then after March even getting bigger. The whole experience seems to be like nightmare because of the fact that I'm talking about teaching graduate courses in our master's program in mathematics. And the enrollment is not sufficient. So in order to get enough students, what we do, we make 3 sections per semester. So they are reported as 1 section. So we have 2 sections, one in Edinburgh, one in Brazil, connected ITV, and we have online. And that's the 1 section. This way we could probably put together a section of 11, 12 students. Right now it's much better. But anyway, so what was the experience? Students were very disappointed with this, especially students online, because they consider that the ITV students have better contact with the and interaction with the instructor. But you know, we have like 2 completely different opinions. One of them is that, oh, that's an online course, so shouldn't be anything which is like similar type of activities, right? The other is, we want to have instructor and talk to instructor and see instructor and so on. So, you know, it's very difficult to make everyone happy. But there is one issue that is there. So this semester is slightly better. I will be teaching course that's cross-listed. Cross-listed in France, we do it online, and there is a section, an independent section in Netherlands. So the number of students online started to increase even more than these students per section. But what is the main issue when you teach mathematics? You need to write something, right? Because there are no symbols, there are some equations, there is something that you cannot just say because no one will be able to follow. So on our side, it's quite easy because we have Surface, or we have this Wacom tablets and other stuff like that, so it works very well. But immediately half of the students or more say that they don't have anything to write. So I don't know how to solve it because every semester is the same story. I'm trying to give exams, like oral exams, meeting with the students individually, and typically it's like 45 minutes or something like that. So it goes a couple of days. And for the students who do not have anything to write, they say something and I'm writing on the tablet and asking, that's what you mean? And you know, goes this way. But anyway, so that's one issue that we have with mathematics. The other issue is the thing that how to make really certain meetings for students and make everyone happy. That's the problem, right? Because even, you know, we are thinking about having different days and different hours. Like maybe half of the group would meet one day and the other day, but still there's the big issue. So I'm not sure whether it's possible at the beginning, in the probably course disclaimer, write that there would be obligatory meetings at this time and so on, and students to know ahead of time, but then they can protest maybe, I don't know. Thank you.
I
know some professors that actually have done that. Chemistry professor is teaching online, and a professor in the MBA program that he actually had when they registered for the class, it actually had the time and date to meet, even though it was online. And then for those that don't have it, just talking the perspective of being a grad student a while back, I appreciated those optional online sessions. I would attend them all, not everyone, but it was recorded. So I had the opportunity to see what was discussed if I did miss it, but otherwise, like, I was there. So giving that option, that is nice to have.
Because the time was wrong for me or something like that. So
But you can't cover everybody. I mean, and I tried that. I teach some of the dual enrollment courses, which is, rough to begin with. And so where I've actually made an effort and went to the different high schools in the morning, picked times for them and went twice a semester, once at the beginning to go through material and once at the end to see if they had any other issues that I could maybe fix. So, I mean, and I'm doing it in my ones on campus here or wherever they're going to be. I'll set up at the beginning of the term sometimes where they can always come to office hours, which I probably don't want to. But also I'll go to each campus. I can't cover everybody if they're not willing to make the effort. I mean, all you can do is try.
And the feedback that we got was that no recorded lectures. That they hated this one. So they wanted to have eventually, clips, like screencasts or something like that with solutions of the problems, but no recording lectures.
There's a question on top. What is the average retention that you have on your online courses? And then going back, do you see a difference between face-to-face and online? So what are your average retention rates between online and face-to-face courses, and do you see a difference?
One of the things I want to point out is that a lot of times our students are very hesitant about group work. But what I've come to understand is that group work helps retention because they keep in contact with each other, especially if you have group work throughout the semester. They keep in contact with each other. They feel like they are part of the classroom. And more than anything is they are starting to ask each other, did you remember to take the quiz? Did you remember to do the survey? Did you remember to do this? And that really has helped out. I even put it to a test one semester with one of my upper division courses. And from retaining people with groups, I maybe lost 1 or 2 throughout the semester. When I did not have groups, I lost 20. So I saw a great deal of difference in that, and maybe that helps you in terms of retention.
And you have a large online class too, right?
Yes, I always have 90 or above. And before I was a lecturer, so in these last 2 years, I've had over 2,000 students. So these are the things that I've just pedagogically just determined what has worked and what has not. Mm-hmm. So we'll see this new semester. Yeah. I teach sociology, but I've taught intro, which is the intro course, which is lower. And then I've had upper division, which are criminology and race and ethnicity online. So everything's been online. Yeah.
A little bit about statistics, because we teach also lower division courses, college algebra, elementary statistics, pre-calculus online. And the passing rate, especially in college algebra, is very bad. It's around 20-something%. I'm talking about ABC versus DF and withdrawal. And normally, probably more than half of students drop. The other forget to drop, so they are getting automatically F. And now, one of the reasons, we had a lot of discussions and talking to students, and one of the big reasons is that they don't feel like being part of the group. They're kind of separated. They work on their own, and that's the word thing. So we are trying to figure out what would be the best way to really create kind of community, for the course. But I don't know much about community. I know how to teach mathematics. How to make community, that's the other story. Thank you.
So that's a great question. How do you build community in your online courses?
I'm sorry, just real quick. The groups, the way I do it, and that's actually also evolved, is at first I did submit everybody into a group that I thought, like, so I self-enrolled them. And then what I noticed is that causes a lot of problems. One of the things to do is like the first week, well, the first 2 weeks, because people go in and out of your class, they add and drop. So the first 2 weeks, what I have them do is really one of the assignments is introduction assignment. And that introduction assignment lets them talk about availability, what they determine is valuable in your group, what do you expect from your group members, and really just kind of giving a baseline, this is what I have to offer in the group. And then they have to pick members, like with the same availability time. And what they do then, the third week, is actually get into those groups. And what they do during that assignment is really building their group. So what happens if somebody cannot join? Do not harass your partners. If you contact them twice, what's going to happen if they don't answer? Do they automatically assume they're no longer part of the group or that assignment? And then they have to contact me to do an alternative, or they get a 0 for that. Or can they reach you at a later time and turn in their particular section of the assignment? So they have to really figure out their structure, how they communicate, when they communicate, and what's the deadline. So they have all week to submit the assignment. So what they'll usually do is pick 3 days out of the week where they're like, today we're going to determine what everyone does. The next time we're going to figure out what everybody's answers are. Do we agree? Do we not agree? How do you decide what gets posted? And then what they do at the very end is that they then write down everything that each one of them did. And I can see the percentages. So if someone came in, I always tell them editing doesn't count. So if you came in at the very end and you decided, I changed it from to they, or something to that effect, you're getting a 0. That doesn't count. What did you actually contribute? And so at that point, students have then been really receptive, and I feel like we all understand what's going to happen, and then we're now ready to do this assignment. And this is just the beginning of that group, right? Once they, for instance, 2 weeks after that, they'll have another assignment where they actually have to read a journal article, discuss some of the content that they read in the chapter, then they come back and bring it all together. And then they have to reflect. What did we like about this group? Like activity, how did we participate? Did we actually agree? Did we do what we agreed on the first time? And if I've had students come back and tell me, you know, my group didn't participate with me, can you show me where they communicated with you and what did you all agree on? And at that point, that really stops any kind of, critique from the other students, because they're like, we did do what we said we were going to do. This person hasn't responded. This is what we agreed on, what would happen. And that's kind of resolved that situation. And so by the end, if you've had a group where you've now reflected on your assignments, how you conduct your assignments together, by the time they do their final assignment, which is a presentation, then they're all happy most of the time, except 1 or 2 groups. And those 2 groups, I've already discussed with them, what can they do to get things better, how can you improve, and what are some of the solutions that are possible. And what they leave, like I've stated before, is that they really feel like they're in person. So it helps them communicate with each other and with me. Because at any point, they can always contact me if there's any resolutions. I do mediations with them as well. Because I tell them that a lot of times, like, now what we're doing is we're seeing a lot of employers are now online. And so whether you like doing group work online or not, this is some skill set that you can say when you're getting hired, I already know how to do this. Actually, these are the solutions that we've had. This is how we build our group culture and our systems. And that's helped out. Thank you. Dr. Dominguez?
Yes. I was going to say that I use a combination of randomizing where I assign groups so that they start for different sort of lower stake kind of discussion things, so that they start to learn who everybody is in the class. And I do this in face-to-face and hybrid classes too, where I have face-to-face classes. And at first they don't like that, but then what they start to realize is that, yes, that they're listening to different perspectives and they're kind of getting an idea of who is in, and it creates a community of learners within the whole class. And then for certain assignments then, once they've started to really learn who everybody is and they've done all these other types of things, I also do reflections on what worked, what didn't, what did you contribute, who did the best work, who didn't, and those are confidential. They come to me, so they can, rat out their group mates without having to feel repercussions from the other people in there. And then for higher stakes group projects, then once they've already started to meet others and really understand who everybody is, where the strengths and weaknesses are and who they want to work with and who has similar tastes or ideas or those kinds of things, then they can actually self-select and create their own groups. And so it ends up sort of being a kind of I do a lot of scaffolding assignments in general, so content scaffolding and so forth, but in order to teach them how to do effective group work, which I think is what creates retention, and it also sets them up to be able to work in, let's face it, just about every job that you go into is going to have some kind of group meeting, activity, committee, you know, and your boss is not going to say, oh, you like to work, but that's okay, you can do that. They're not. You have to be part of that. And so this allows them to sort of practice those skills and understand. And so the grading on those for all of the different types of grades has both an individual component, responsibility, so that they take responsibility for their ownership and that kind of thing. And I base my individual grade for the students based on those ratings that I get from the other students. And then there's the actual group grade. And so whatever their individual grade is either deducted or some, you know, the combination that gets into the overall grade. And it does create, and I have to say I have a pretty good retention rate in all my classes, whether they're online, hybrid, or face-to-face.
Thank you. Any other questions or
This is a question for Colt more than anybody else. So, as we're talking around the table and we see different ideas that tell us stuff, but we don't actually know all the ins and outs of every rule and things. Can you guys, in fact, decide some courses that you think are like really outstanding, that does everything that you think that the professor should be doing in the course, and make them available to all of us so we can see their content and see their ideas and see how they flush everything out?
that is actually what we're working on right now too. Anthony Salinas, who's not here today with us, he's actually slowly going into some courses and asking permission, because we want to make sure that we get permission to have access to a module so that of the different courses, just to see, so that everyone can see what everyone's doing. Because we have a template, but it doesn't mean, and I think there's a perception that you have to follow this template. No, there's different ways to meet QM. And also to see what others are doing in, for example, gamification and other approaches that they're using, instructional strategies that they're using. But I guess to make it a long story short, yes, we are working on that, and we will be sending an email out once that is done, but we're slowly just gathering.
Yeah, so during the hybrid academy, one thing that I really liked that you all talked about was personalizing the experience for the student. That's something that that I find very challenging. But here's one question I have for Colt, or maybe for anybody that's here. Is there any software? So Blackboard, they take the course right after the semester is over. They no longer have access to the material. I don't know maybe what courses they've taken before. Is there any way? Is there an app that a student can maybe start using at year one when they first start, where they can set goals, kind of career plans, and somehow it could link maybe to Blackboard where you kind of know where the student is coming from, and then maybe you can tailor the experience to what their goals are. So I teach neuroscience. Let's say I have a student that's a nursing student, and then I can say, okay, well maybe you can do research that's going to be relevant to you. Right now it's very difficult to do that. I mean, can you imagine if I have 60 or 80 students, I can't do that for each student. But if there's an app that just kind of does that already, maybe like a journal that they started taking when they, year one, and then when they come to me when they're second year or third year, they kind of already have this, journal or some other tool that maybe can help them personalize the experience and make it easy for me and for the student.
Because it's something that basically all instructors will then have access to, right? So that they can actually review the students.
Right, well, an example would be I asked a student, and some students come to office hours, and there was a student who told me, well, I took a class in biology, and I think we covered this, and I said, well, go back to your notes, and they said, well, I did an assignment on Blackboard, but I no longer have access to it, so I don't, things like that. Or they'll mention something that they wrote in English class that, oh, I don't know where I have it somewhere in my hard drive, I lost it, I don't have access to it anymore. So it's just to kind of piece everything together, so to really personalize the experience, make it easier for the student.
One thing that we've done to try to help build continuity throughout our programs is the development of a portfolio. where in our undergraduate, our master's and doctoral program, the students have to develop the portfolio. They develop it in the first class, and in every class after that, they submit their key assessments, their major projects that they do into their portfolio. This provides continuity through the program. It also lets faculty see their progress. You see where they're at. You see what their strengths and weaknesses are. And we've designed the portfolio to be more than just a diagnostic tool for faculty. It's something that they can take with them. They own it. And when they graduate, they can go ahead and, link it to their resumes so that way they take ownership of it. So that's one way. And I've heard several people say about, how do you personalize the course? It's really, the larger the class, the harder it is to be able to personalize the course. But when our performance goes down on the assessments, usually it has to do with how connected the students feel they are to us, how present we appear to be to the students. One thing that we've done is, even though our courses are offered 100% asynchronously, we do have a weekly session where every week we talk about the projects. And we deconstruct the projects. So every week, I'll say, okay, this week we're going to look at this aspect of your project, the instructional goal. Prepare a one-slide PowerPoint presentation and present it to the class, and I critique it, and the students provide input on it. And so we don't use that time to lecture. We use that time to provide feedback so that way when they submit the final project, the project has been deconstructed and they've received some feedback along the way so they know they're on the right track. And then we record the session so that way anyone that can't make it has access to that information. So those are just two suggestions that might help.
As far as us having an application at this time, gathering that data, we don't have that. I'm not sure. The thing that pops up in my head is data analytics. Go ahead. So data analytics, Blackboard has a really nice data analytics that we're not using right now that actually can grab data from everything for that one student. And it has a lot of information that can help, help us to, help each faculty, help everyone and help the student basically see where they need to improve on. So that's something that's not utilized right now. We have it, but it's not been utilized. And that's something that we're also looking at, because eventually, and I would like to go on to the next, and because we went to the Blackboard conference, they actually had this other tool that was called, what was it called?
Blackboard
Predictive. And just imagine a student being able to see where they're at currently. It's actually in Blackboard and showing you're right here, right now. If you continue this rate, you're not going to be doing well, and have some suggested. But it's data that's moving. It's dynamic. It's not just static information. It keeps on growing based on everything that is actually being collected. But that's the only thing I can think of right now.
I was going to add to Dr. Corbell's comment. On the portfolio, that's what we're using in the leadership minor. We're incorporating the portfolio so students will have access to as they go through the minor. But even if they're maybe the second course, that they can still go back to the first courses, or even if they're last course, they can still go back and add. Even if they don't have access to the course, they can still go and grab the assignments that belong to them.
It seems that it would be something that, in order for the core courses, that's something that needs to be pushed out, that everyone kind of uses a system that they have, that they ask their students to collect artifacts so that you can actually take advantage of that.
I would like just to add here that the university is embarking right now on the student learning outcome and unit assessment. And what you're talking about, it should be about the curriculum mapping and what are the skills and competencies that we're trying to. And that's usually the department who need to get together and see how the portfolio is one component. We do have the capstone, but it's still at the end of the program because we have our accreditation as well. We are NASPA, the National Network of Association of Public Affairs and Public Administrations. So we have like a pre-test, post-test. There are a lot of tools that you need to. So it's not only about personalizing your course, that's one thing, but also not only about the goals for students. They need to know right there. And this is one thing that our university needs to help with. When I send a student, he sent me an email, what class? I said, did you call for advisement? No, I didn't feel the need, so how can I help you? How can I help you to set up your goals to make sure that you are going to finish? And I'm talking about graduate program. How about the undergrad? So this is something that it's beyond actually right here. But the predictive analytics is one tool, actually one way to help, but that means we need somebody from CDL to help you, and we need to have more. I'm not criticizing CDL, okay, I don't want to be on the, because we need more staffing, because even the retention center on the Blackboard, we need help with that. If as a faculty, sometimes you're overwhelmed. And actually I would like to have a segue, I'm not trying to monopolize, but we go back to the retention. Ram and I, we started last year the student readiness for the online education. And we use the software, we got the grant from Academic Partnership. Well, I'm going to send out again because they extend the license, and I'm inviting anybody who wants to help to, because we have the license for 300 students. So far I have only 28 students, and they are giving me until December. But my question here, and for Ram as well, because you have been using it when you were in the community college, you know, it was a good tool to predict success for students. It has nothing to do with cognitive skills. It's only non-cognitive skills, discipline, self-discipline, communication, procrastination, and stuff like that. The student who did it, I know them because they were 27. I'm so involved with my department, so I know all of them. They are successful. So the one that you really need to do it, so how can I, so this is a 3,000, it took us like what, 4 months just to get the institutional review board approval, and so I only have now 28 who did it, and all of them, they don't have that problem to be successful. So I'm just a question to see how we can get students really to be part of this project. Thanks.
So what we could do is send an email out to see if anyone wants to use this student readiness software, and that way she can then incorporate that in your course as well.
So tell me, what's the difference between this analytics and actually setting up the grade center so they can see all the way along where they're actually doing, and they know whether they're going to pass or not, or how well they're doing? I mean, there's a percentage one that you can add in there that tells them it's a running percentage total. I mean, that's what I do, so I don't see really the need to bring
it actually
this
does
other
overall,
stuff.
not just one course level. It does overall, gives you a big picture of how the student's doing, what areas they're weak in, what areas they're strong at. And you can create some rules of what you're looking at. What are you interested in? Are you interested in the level of engagement, and not just the grades, but actually in like activity, looking at other things within behind the scenes that we don't see. We can also see, like, my students often come in, log in at midnight, and that's generally when you see more activity. So then how can I use that data to change the way I teach? That will tell me that maybe I can have some live sessions online since they're happening to be logged in at this point.
Is that the section, because I always check for everything that I put in there. I always check that, track student activity, or track this a thing, so that I can actually go, and this would be for one course, but I can go in to see things like that, when they logged in, how many times, how long in between getting in, what activity did they do? Did they just log in to look or read, or is there other things that they're doing? So is that what connects to the analytics?
I wouldn't know all the details of it. Like, that's something that we are still looking at. Like, we have it, right? We have the software. I mean, not the software. We have that product.
Yeah, we have the product, but we haven't implemented it.
Okay.
It's something. It's also a project that involving other departments, because we need data from the SIS, from the Student Information System, Blackboard, and it's pretty much like a data warehouse of pulling data from all the different systems.
Okay. Yeah, because besides the grade book, obviously, I use that, for everything that I post, I put the track view, and I use those statistics for myself, again, to see, well, when are they logging on? So, and how can I, so it gives me a snapshot of the activity and the things that are going, and I do this since I use Blackboard for everything. I mean, it's not just online, but also hybrid, face-to-face, all that. It helps me to determine, how to sort of, not customize, but certainly be able to track how my students are interacting. And it gives me a better sense, a snapshot of what's going on in the class in terms of how students are doing on certain things, how many times are they going into a particular area, how many times are they maybe viewing a particular PowerPoint, so all of these things help me to determine which students are interacting with the class and in what ways. And then I can run little reports for myself and in terms of how I keep attendance online, and because I don't actually do attendance, but I do so that I can see what needs to be targeted. I love that feature, and I use it consistently, to help me sort of determine what I need to do in class.
I want to make a comment. In terms of the predictive analytics, I mean, if Blackboard's got a feature that can be built in, but we've also got, and this shows our disconnect that we still have on our campuses, is that we've got the EAB system has predictive analytics software that advisors use to communicate with students based on grades. It sounds like there's an input to Blackboard. I know as we get into our assessment mode, we're adopting TK20 as a university, and we're supposed to be able to pull all of our course assessments, if they're properly aligned, straight into that. But we've got all these different pockets of information that they're not talking to each other. And that's creating us, I mean, we've got the same questions here. The predictive analytics, I mean, we can set benchmarks in every program, and we know that if a student gets a C in Anatomy 2, they're not going to do well in these other courses. We've got that already, but it's over here. Then Blackboard does something different. What we need to figure out how to streamline is we need to quit isolating using all these different little pockets, figure out a way to get them to talk to each other. I know it's taken us 2 years just to get this point. We finally get Banner almost figured out, and we're going to dump it and go to PeopleSoft. But that's another story. If you don't know what I'm talking about, be very nice to your admins.
There's a question online.
Yes, there is a question on the chat from participant in area 13. She's asking, do you have any suggestions on how to minimize online test cheating other than using the monitor system?
For assessments?
Yeah.
Time the exams, time the quizzes. I know there was
randomized. Yeah,
randomized.
So I mean, that's how I have all my quizzes set up, so that they basically, two people could be sitting next to each other taking the same quiz, and the questions would be in different orders.
Something that I read in an article too.
Is the term.
I'm so sorry. I'm not sure. Let's to see what everyone thinks. Like, if it's a recall question, then you should give no more than 30 seconds per question. So that's how you set up your time. If it's a recall question, lower order thinking. So that way they don't have enough time to actually go through their books and swipe and look for the answers, because they're going to waste time. Of course, if it's more cognitive, more higher order thinking, then they're going to need a little bit more time. Go ahead.
I was going to add, in terms of the whole idea of cheating in an online environment, I mean, some of these software platforms, Tegrity, I spent a lot of time talking to the Tegrity rep at the Colt conference. But they've got some new features built in that do automatic monitoring, so you don't physically have to watch them. But on the flip side of that, just as a general deal, if anybody's using the test banks that come with the textbooks, students can go online and buy those anytime. I mean, you do a Google search and you can buy every test bank out there. So I mean, using a large test bank, modifying it to fit your own class is another way to kind of minimize cheating. I mean, if you're going to give a 100-question test online, great. Your test bank needs to be 500, 600, 700 questions so that the pool's different enough for each class. That would be my suggestion. Because I know right now in my online nutrition class, I've had to go in and modify some stuff because I Googled and I found a sample of a test bank on one chapter, but I could purchase it for $20 if I wanted it. So we've got to keep that in the back of our minds. So we need to modify or use our own test banks. And then that takes time. However, the folks at Colt, they've got tricks and they can upload test banks and take text files and convert them a lot faster than we can typing them in one-on-one.
I wanted to add to the topic discussion on how do students know where they're at performance-wise. What I'm starting to do this semester is I've plugged in my course goals into the outcomes assessments tool, which is very easy to do. And then I'm going into the assignments and tagging those assignments to the specific goals, and then turning on the goal performance in Blackboard. So now students can click on that and they go and they see their goal, like goal 1, and then the assignments that are under it. And then as supposedly, I'm going to do this, I've done this, but I got to teach it now. So supposedly they click on the goal and they'll see where they're at. It even gives them a little status bar of how they did, percentage-wise and so on. So I'll know more about how it works in the classroom. But if you're interested in how to set it all up, just come by and I can show you. It's fairly easy. You just got to bring your goals, obviously.
One thing that I'd like to add to that is your testing shouldn't be the whole end-all be-all on this, and so that way, so you can minimize that too by only having it being a percentage, maybe 15-20% overall. So if they do find a way around or whatever, it won't be as bad. I mean, they have to show it other ways too. So
one thing that I found with my online teaching is I spent a lot of time reflecting on what I was trying to convey to the students and what I expected them to give back to me. And I find I do a lot less straight up examination work in my online classes. I've gone to projects and reports and other types of assignments. I don't know if that's a common occurrence. I think in a lecture class we're lazy and examinations are a convenient assessment technique, and they may not necessarily accurately measure the things you really want your students to learn. So I do find I'm doing much less testing in my online classes.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that. I actually, even in my face-to-face classes, I haven't done a traditional exam in 6-7 years. I moved to, project-based, discussion-based group work, and it was very easy to then move that into the online and hybrid environment. And I do use quizzes, but I tell my students that they're not gotcha quizzes. They're not recall. They're open book, and they're on concepts. And so I usually keep quizzes open for a 2-week period, and then within that 2-week period, they can take them as many times as they want to get 100. So if if they want those hundreds, they just have to sit there with the book and find the answers and take it all as many times as they need to. Because the way that I see it is, I want them to walk away with the knowledge. I don't want to catch them or trip them up or give them a reason to go and quote-unquote cheat, because it's not. I want them to learn. And so I do grammar quizzes, I do reading quizzes, I do concept quizzes, all kinds of things. And then very often what I do is, for a hybrid class, I will use those as the kind of prep work. Then they come in, they work in groups, and so it's a way of making sure that they've done at least some of the reading, even if they haven't read whatever it is cover to cover. They come in and then they actually have something to work with. And the way that I see it is that it gets them reading. It's a sneak attack on reading, frankly, because in order to be able to answer the questions, and the way that I devise the questions, it's not something that they can just go out and find. They have to go in and look for it. That means that at least they will have read the portions in order to answer the questions, so that when they come in for group work, then they actually can be prepared to do the discussion. And it really works because, and the students generally have always told me, says, you know, I didn't think that I would like this, but actually it made me really then interested in then finding out more, and you know, and why does it come to this question? And so I read that little part to answer that question, but then that got me curious, and that kind of, and then the group work becomes much more effective. And the same thing for the grammar and terminology and concept stuff. Then I see that they can actually apply it into reflective essays, into whatever they're doing. And so I don't give traditional final exams, I don't give any of that kind of stuff, and it's all either reflections on what they've read so they can't plagiarize, project-based that are very difficult to plagiarize because I have very specific, strict rules that they need to follow that they really can't go out and just find. You know, so these kinds of things. So it really has eliminated for me drastically, it has really decreased the instances of plagiarism. So that's one other good benefit. And the students get involved. They start to see it as kind of a challenge, and they look at their projects and all those kinds of things as something that they're really learning about and applying. And their reflective essays at the end of the semester really show that that's what they're taking. They're getting some real insights, which is, for me, the whole purpose.
So in my case, I would like to do more group activities. I have in the past tried to do kind of discussions where they discuss a topic, but sometimes it's really difficult to, I mean, they'll do it. We'll have like some challenge questions, but then they struggle because in some cases they really have to understand the material, know which cell communicates with which cell in the brain. So I guess my question is there any software for those of us that, you know, are more biological or more science-based, where you can have the students maybe draw a tool that they can use in class that's freely available? I guess that's a trick, maybe somehow communicates with Blackboard, where during class they can draw, create things, and then somehow project it onto the screen. I tried to do an activity like that, but it took a while. During class, we don't have much time. They were emailing me their files, and then I was trying to, it just took too much time. So is there any way to facilitate that type of activity in class?
That's a feature in Blackboard Collaborate where you can draw and broadcast to them, or you can pass control to them and they can broadcast to you. I don't know if you want a demo.
They also have that on Blackboard IM, just in case you're wondering. Students are able to do group chats in there, and they are able to write on the screen, and they can share their screen with each other. So that's also a possibility.
Is that during class time?
You can do it.
It could be during class time, or it could be when they're working separately. So let's say you have everybody online, and you want to work per group, right? Let's say you want to work with group A. You can join their group chat, and then they can show you, draw everything out, and they'll be able to share their screen with you and be able to do that. So if you're in the classroom, you can project that on the board.
You would just require your students to actually bring their laptops so that all of them can do this.
If you're doing a live session using Collaborate, I recommend beforehand, there's a little check mark you can let everybody in as moderators so that during the session you don't have to be offering it off. It takes a lot of time. But there's a little pre-check mark, let everyone in as a moderator, and then they have full control, and you could say, Jessica, do you want to draw? Or Anna, would you like to draw?
Another thing that I do is with Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, students can preload their content. So if you tell them on Thursday we're going to meet at X amount on this date and time, and for that I want you to prepare XYZ, whatever it is, and save it as a JPEG, or you provide the specifications, and then they can preload it, so that way when you are doing your live session, you can go ahead and say, okay, Janie, you want to show us what you've got? And they just go and click it, share it with everybody, and it doesn't take a lot of time. Before, we had to wait for everybody to load their content up, and it wasted minutes.
I was going to mention while we're waiting here, for those that have coaches, I'm not sure if you're aware that you don't have to, if the coach, for example, what you mentioned before, if they're not responding, you can actually, at the beginning of the semester or in the middle of the semester, if they're not working the way you want them to work, you can actually have them removed to get a new coach, because you don't have to, and just, it still happens with a...
No, I mean, you can, because I had one, I mean, it just, she dropped. I mean, we started this session, and maybe after 1 week she said, well, just to find another coach, to get the coach on board. And we are supposed to do that evaluation. We're still working, we're trying to create a nice pool of good coaches. We are working on that, but there are some, even though we say they are not performing, they are still in the system.
Are you talking to Jacqueline to remove
Yes,
them?
I did.
Oh, okay.
No, but, it's a trust.
Sorry.
I don't know if you were talking about this, about sharing the blank whiteboard and Collaborate. So you have this, like the pen tool, and you can draw like in this white area, or you have the text box if you want to type in an information.
And like with neurobiology, you can actually have, like if you want to take a component of the brain for synapses and stuff, already preload that. That way if there's something that they need to label or to focus on, then like they don't actually have to draw a neuron or draw specific components of the brain. And they're just basically then just working together to fill out whatever tasks you have them to do. I think you have to load them.
I mean, when we had workshop, I like it, but I went back to the
You can drag in this area, yeah. If you share a file, you can drag it.
That's preloading, and then but to actually load it onto the whiteboard so that you have multiple images that you can drag and drop, that was a feature. Yeah.
And you can present PowerPoints here a little more seamlessly than using Blackboard Collaborate and then sharing the PowerPoint application. And it makes it seamless in there. You just click through the Collaborate rather than sharing.
Does this one has share the screen?
Share application. And it's also brought back the breakout rooms. So now that one has it too. It's really nice.
This works on the app, using the students have an app on.
Yes, it works on the app, but there's certain things, right, that they can't do.
Yeah, they can use it. They can join the session with the app, with their mobile app, and they will be able to chat.
Are there any other questions, comments, suggestions? Yes?
So some of my assignments is I have them upload stuff, like group projects, I have them upload a PowerPoint, or I have them do videos and like an introduction video. Do you guys have any recommendations on how big these should be? Because if they get as a certain size, it takes me forever just to download them to look at them. So if you have her 100 and however many in the class, and let's say they're only a 2 or 3 minute video, which can be any size from like 4 or 5 meg to 150 meg. How do we, I've limited them at 50 because otherwise it takes me too long to down. I'm wasting hours just downloading before I can look at them. Any recommendations?
One thing that you can do is have the students upload it to YouTube, and that takes care of a lot of things, because then you just click and watch. They can set up their own private channels, and so that only the persons who were given the link can view the video if they want. But that would be one.
I've had them do that before, but it turned out when they were saying that they did something and I said, no, it wasn't in the video, you'll go back under YouTube, and I can't control when they re-uploaded it, or in fact, if it's even still there. And so that's why I took that away, so I don't have them doing that option, I have them go right to Blackboard. But that was a good suggestion.
Well, one thing that I do, I have my own sort of private channel as well on YouTube. And so if they create something, they'd send me the link, and then I can go and find it and actually bring it into my playlist, into my own playlist. So that way I can keep them and I have a record of those things. And so that's one way, so that the moment that you know that they're there, you find them, and then you actually transfer it or copy it over into you. That's what I do. And so I have this sort of little library of all the stuff that my students have ever done, and stuff that I've done too, and that kind of thing. And it really works, at least for me.
Dr. Zamani has a response.
Sorry, because we're talking about video and audio, and we did not address yet the elephant in the room, the disability, the accessibility thing for those students who can. So I know I have been flagged. I mean, my course went into review, and I need to address all those. We know we were aware of that, but just if you can share with us how we can do when we have students like that who can have some disabilities.
Well, just also to add on, there's Tegrity for the last question. You can use Tegrity for the students upload their videos as well, not just record their videos, but if they make a multimedia file, they can actually upload their videos as well. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
So that way, if you want it to be a little bit more nicer than just the regular webcam kind of thing, that is that option, and it has a timestamp. As far as accessibility, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, just to piggyback on that. So the Tegrity video, what I have students do is, especially with the group, like each one will do a PowerPoint slide, and then they record their voice on the PowerPoint slide. And so they're actually talking to you, and you're hearing it. And what they'll do is then they'll send it to a leader in the group, and that leader is responsible for putting the PowerPoint together and then uploading it. So you only get one video for like 5 or 6 students. And that's helped out in terms of time, but they do take a little bit to load.
So go ahead.
Okay, I had this is kind of maybe a really basic question, but I'm putting together 3 online courses for the first time this semester, and a lot of these questions are really good, but this is going to be more basic on how you guys present your actual content. Because what I started doing is I started using Soft Chalk, which the university has available, and I'm trying to integrate lots of YouTube clips, lots of quizzes, interactive things, because I started typing these things out, and it sounds like either a poorly edited textbook or a bad transcript of a lecture that I would give in person where the jokes just fall flat because they're in text form. So I'm trying to find a good balance of presenting this content to them, because if it gets too textbooky, I know my students hate textbooks. When I quiz them and ask them how many people have read the textbook this semester, it's usually 12 to 15%. So I don't want them just tuning out of these things that I'm spending 4 hours a night working on.
So how do you structure your courses? That's the question.
How are you actually presenting this material? I mean, it sounds like a lot of people are doing like group project collaborations. Is it just read the book and then these are the online collaborations that we're going to be doing, and I'm not going to try to present my own content?
I use a lot of, I love PowerPoint because of, especially the newer versions, because you can put in a whole bunch of stuff, and I use all kinds of graphics and stuff, and so the slides, and I put audio. I can sometimes then link to a YouTube if I want to do something like that. But the other thing that I do is I make sure that whatever my assignments or lectures or whatever I happen to do are also quite so sometimes in a PowerPoint, for instance, I might present some information and then have a slide in which I say, okay, now stop and think for a second, and here's a question, and think about it for yourself or whatever, because this is you're gonna end up having to talk about this on the discussion board, or this is something that we're gonna discuss in class if it's a hybrid, for instance. And so I have these little stops and starts. I kind of minimize how many times I just do a video where I lecture the information, because I find, just like you, that it then starts sounding like I'm just reading off something. However, doing it through the PowerPoints, because I can put in colors, I can put in these kinds of things, and be able to link outside to other stuff, actually they seem to enjoy that better. I always also have and that goes to your accessibility issue. So if I have the PowerPoint, obviously any images, I always have the alt text there. But then I also create a transcript of the note. That might not be a word-for-word transcript of what my audio is, but whatever those notes are that I would normally have done in a lecture or present those notes, then I have it as a file that they can open to be able to do that. And then some of the videos on YouTube and other kinds of things have a captioning a feature, so I can do that as well. So I make sure that I try to get some of those things in there for those accessibility issues. But what I try to do is just make those things fun. I try to keep my PowerPoints so that they're usually not more than 15 slides or so, bulleted with my audio, and then I clip out to things, I have little links. And so I just try to make them very interactive. And when I have assignments, you can ask, this is one of my ex-graduate students who's a TA this semester working with me, what my assignment instructions look like. Graphics, cool text, all kinds of little things, and a very conversational style. And many of my students tell me that that's one of the things that they love is that kind of stuff. So I just try to liven it up.
Are you uploading PowerPoint files that they then download and then run with PowerPoint and it has your audio, or is it you're recording those PowerPoints as like video that they can just watch a video?
No, well, the PowerPoint has where you can add audio to each slide. And they just have to click on it's like a little megaphone, and they click on that. They can be looking at the PowerPoint slide and then hearing the notes, hearing the audio, so that they can do that. Now, the way that I set it up is I have it in Blackboard. They basically click on the thing, they can open it up in their thing, and then the audio just runs as they click. So I don't have it in a timed version so that they can spend as much time as they want to on each slide. And then they just click on the audio to listen, or I tell them, if you don't want the audio, then here are the notes. You can go along and take a look at what that is. Yeah.
So one thing I do to make sure that the students are reading the textbook is that for some of my group activities, I actually tell them, okay, on page whatever, the author stated this. Now, of course, there are, he cites, sources of information, and I tell the students to kind of dissect a particular paragraph or a sentence, and to really to have them challenge, what would you tell the author? What is he missing in terms, in terms of the interpretation or whatever? And for me, what's really big, that a lot, in my field anyway, so I teach physiological psychology, is in a lot of the research, when you really read it, in some cases they exclude women, and it's only clinical trials where it's men. And so that's really big. And I try to see, can you spot the problem here? And some students will. They say, oh wow, they didn't consider gender or sex as a biological variable. And so that's one way that it forces them to actually read the textbook. They have to go back and, okay, this is the article, I have to look it up. And I also kind of have a few class sessions. I do this a lot for research methods, but also for physiological psych, is I teach them how to use the databases so they can look up articles. And so that's one way that I kind of force them to read the textbook, because that's part of the assignment. They have to challenge the author of the textbook.
Now, the question was raised by Dr. Zamrani about accessibility. Accessibility is a big issue in online learning and hybrid learning. All courses need to be accessible, regardless of having a student with disability. So what are the things that are available to you here at the university? Currently, we're working with a company, CaptionSync, but also Tegrity has a built-in captioning, auto-generating captioning feature now. So that way, you can actually have your recordings captioned Another thing that's coming up for your PDFs, for your articles that maybe not been scanned properly, that they're scanned as images, we are going to be having Ally piloting in the fall.
Yes.
So for those that are of you or that are interested, please let us know. What it's going to do is any documents that you have attached in Blackboard, articles, etc., it's going to actually create, accessible format. So it'll actually do recognizable text, but in 5 different styles. One in Braille, one in, text, HTML5. I forgot what the other 3 were, but it'll actually convert your text, those documents. You still will need to actually take a look at those documents because there may be some things. What we've seen some of it do is it may remove an image that you had, or it may ask you to go back and add the alternative text. This is still somewhat new to Blackboard, and so they're actually going to add more improvements to it because currently, something to consider, if you're going to be working with a publisher site, you want to let them know if I'm going to choose your textbook or your e-textbook, then I need to make sure that that content is accessible. If you don't have that, it's a way to motivate them to get their content accessible. What else? Any website resources that you have that you point out to, all that has to be accessible as well. So these are things to consider. With organizations.orgs and so on, you want to communicate with those sites if you're using those sites to see if they can make items accessible. Canopy, how many are you aware of Canopy that the library has of video lectures? That is nice. It has a lot of nice repository of documentaries, movies, and etc. There's even leadership videos and educational videos as well. Some of their videos are not captioned. I just requested one to be captioned. I just select that little check box and I asked, well, this video is not captioned, can you caption it? It took 3 days for them to caption it. So these are things that are available, just being aware that those services are for you. Mm-hmm.
What we do with, let's say,
Sorry.
let's say we want to use a YouTube video. Obviously, we don't own the content. Can we just put the transcript of it as a file below it, or what options do we have?
There is that option, and right now even Caption Sync, what they can do is do an overlay so that you can actually have it captioned. It's not actually on the YouTube website, but it's for your students so that they can actually see the captioning on it.
That's an
Overlay.
Is that a product? Is that a service that we have?
Caption Sync is a service we have. Yeah.
My question, I know we are, as faculty, yes, I know we have to comply with accessibility and we have all the services, but in an online program and we require students to present or to do video, how can we make sure that student who had the disability is going to do that? That was faculty, I know what we're supposed to do, but for students, how we can help them? Because you remember we had one case in our program, and it took us forever to serve that student. But how can we, if it's blind or whatever.
So are you talking about the student submissions of their videos?
Yes.
So you want to make sure to provide an alternative approach. If they cannot speak, you want to make sure that you have a different approach on that assignment for them so that way they can complete it. That's a good question.
I give all students that option. I don't need to know if some of them don't have the technology or don't feel comfortable speaking into, and doing an audio recording. So I have two options. And today, there are even free online services where they could create an avatar and type in the text and the avatar speaks for them. So, or I give them a simple choice. They could do a PowerPoint and have the words in a way that's graphically pleasing, meets all the multimedia. They'll have to figure out, any student would have to figure out a way how to place the text in an appealing way, on the presentation. So I give that option to all students. Most of them take the audio version, and I don't need to know why they chose the other one. It's just they need to know how to offer their clients options, and so they can use these options and be comfortable with all the options.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, suggestions? Something that I've been thinking about too with accessibility is I'm wondering if it's possible. So I'm not sure like if this is possible. Like so, I know the faculty has a lot on their plate, and they have. So imagine PowerPoints that have images. Is it possible for departments to hire graduate students to do that are content experts, and like if that's possible to go over and provide the appropriate alternative text, because context is important. It's not just about describing what the image is. And this is something that I've just been thinking about for a while now, because this is something that is a big issue, and there's a lot that needs to be done. So is that something that's feasible? Is that something that's unrealistic, or not feasible?
For our online program, we talk about this when we attended a wonderful conference, actually, was it in April, for the accessibility. It was like an eye-opener, even though we know the quality matters, but when you go there and you attend, it was a great conference. And Blackboard was there, and they said we volunteered to be among those faculty who are going to offer their courses, and we are going to do that. They're going to evaluate and then we have a graduate assistant, so if you can help with that, that would be great. I'm not sure where you are with Blackboard, because Rita mentioned that she's going to do that in July.
It's going to be in the fall semester.
Okay, thank you.
So it's not something that's feasible for all departments, or no? Okay.
Do we have any other questions on the live chat?
Somebody?
Yeah, no more questions. We just had a question about the handouts, but for any of you, if you have any questions, like you can always contact our department, and we have plenty of handouts in our website. Visit our website. We have a section for students, a section for faculty, so we have in there a lot of materials.
And also, September 29th, we're going to have another faculty roundtable in Edinburgh, and we'll be sending notifications out as well. So if you're interested in coming, please do attend. We do have a survey evaluation included on your packet to see how we can improve upon the session. What changes would you recommend? What would be helpful? And I really appreciate all of you participating. It was really, like, it's been an hour and almost 2 hours already, and it's been going on since that time. So I really appreciate you coming and participating in this session. Thank you. We just wanted to share some things that are going on. As far as we have some incentivized programs coming on. Hybrid Academy, Teaching Large Online. We are going to actually be starting soon, is a general core blueprinting. So the goal is for every undergraduate core course to have an online component. And so we want to be reaching out to departments to see if we can get all those core courses online. And so that's something that we are looking at also providing. If you're teaching online, we do have templates available, so you can have some structured out, so you don't have to start from scratch. So just feel free to contact us. You should have an instructional designer contacting you. If not, just call our department. And then hybrid learning as well. So I guess I should be moving it. And so hybrid as well, we do also have developmental shells available as well, so you don't have to start from scratch. Professional development opportunities, we have Blackboard sessions. We've actually had this in summer and fall, all of it already scheduled. If you're interested in finding out what the dates they are, they might be in that packet. Is it on that little folder that they have? No? Okay. So we'll send that out to you in an email to share what the developmental trainings we're going to be providing. Next, our second annual Excellence in Online Learning Conference, it's going to be March 2nd. And it's going to be here in the same room, what do you call it? The keynote and lunch. And then we're going to be using the rooms over here for our breakout sessions as well. So that's coming in the spring semester. And then as far as incentivized programs, these are the ones that are going to be going on. The goal is to offer it every fall and spring semester. And so this is just something as a heads up. If you would like to participate, the Teaching Large Online and Hybrid Academy are currently allowing for registration. So please feel free to apply. And then again, we have technology trainings. We have them actually consecutive at the same time from Brownsville and Edinburgh, running at the same time. So if you're from Brownsville, you can attend the Brownsville session. any of our Blackboard trainings. If you're in Edinburgh, you can attend our Edinburgh trainings. And that's it. Thank you.